Nero.
Advanced philosophy memes. We make good memes. Advanced philosophy memes. Base fucking memes. Advanced philosophy memes. We make good memes. Advanced philosophy memes. Base fucking memes. Shoutouts to Andreas, Deacon, my boy Scott, Pedro, and everyone else that engages on my posts. And Sarah, keep it up, man. You'll get there someday. And everyone else for playing memes.
Yo. Hello.
Everyone. Welcome, everyone. I
Hi there.
guess Andreas is not here today. So,
Dude, it's like,
yeah.
where's Waldo?
Yeah, for sure. So, I don't know. Well, we do have a subject. Which can be whatever we want it to. That's but if we want any sort of direction, we can talk about the Bored Ape Yacht Club. If anybody has thoughts about those, yeah, that was where we kind of left off last time a little bit. Like we talked a little bit about that last week, but yeah, if anybody has any immediate thoughts about that, fire off, or you can just talk about whatever. That's fine.
Well,
Yeah, the
Is
whole
it,
thing is
no, I was just gonna ask if it's Nazi shit.
Yeah,
well, it could be. I think it definitely is, but I think my initial thoughts is that it's like, I don't know how to put it. It's not like it's just a pure troll, but it isn't serious in the way that they're Nazis. Like I just get that impression that they're not Nazis, that they're trying to like use it to subvert people's like minds in some way. I don't know how to put it exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Sorry. I'm backtracking. I've had a great week personally, but yeah, I had a little stomach sickness yesterday, so I'm still kind of like about that. But all right, what are we looking at here? I'm not going to do
Hey,
any.
so I'm still dealing with a broker, trying to get my run together. And so I'm probably gonna have to bounce out for just a minute, but I'll be back immediately and driving. And so so I'll be here.
Okay, no problem. All right, so we were talking about like, all right, so the whole meme culture. Yeah, we've had a lot of memes over the past decade. I think maybe people are honestly getting a little bit exhausted of memes in general, because, well, for several reasons. But we have our meme culture here all over the earth. It's kind of like a global meme culture at this point. I don't know what it's like in China. They probably have their own memes, but they might have regulations. But okay, so we got into the subject of NFTs and how quickly, like it was very much a flash in the pan sort of trend in hindsight. Like it was there, like NFTs were selling for billions of dollars, and then all of a sudden they're pretty much worthless to this day. Like maybe you can find an NFT that's worth 10 grand, maybe even that's generous, but it
Like
was
fake
definitely
Pikachu?
very much a fad. And
So is it pretty much? course now? Is because I didn't pay much attention to it. Is it pretty much run its course? Like I fully expected it to, but where's it at?
Oh, I haven't even like researched if you can even buy these things anymore. To be honest, it doesn't seem like anybody's giving them any attention whatsoever. So, like, I would be surprised if
they're
there's.
still making NFT games, so I figure that they're trying to find the market for it because NFTs only really work once the virtual structures are in place, and so it's a testing ground. Like
I can't hear you.
Can't
Yeah,
hear
Vince,
me.
just
can you
a little
turn
quiet.
up?
Yeah, just a
Turn
little
up,
louder.
baby.
Hold on a second.
Yeah, sorry, I look like
I'll
a
be right
homeless
back,
man
you
here.
guys.
Go ahead. It's all good. But
You can
so
definitely buy NFTs and like all these game companies, you know, like Epic, Tim Sweeney's Epic. You could argue that the skins in Fortnite are essentially a kind of NFT. You could say that in the future, virtual properties that are licensed will be non-fungible or fungible tokens. That's all that means, right? Non-fungible. So buying something that's only available in that world or in that company. What was interesting to me was how they were able to get celebrities to kind of sign hush money deals. Like, hey, you know, it's cool. We'll give you this cool thing. We'll give you this ape token, and that way people could say, "Wow, celebrities own these," and that increases the charge of a symbol amongst laymen.
Oh yeah, that's quite the racket. But obviously, that comes with certain levels of societal harm. But like, I'm not trying to go directly down into that like moral stance. But one trend that comes to mind, like there was the whole huge wave of the Prime Energy drink, which I also think that also went out of fashion like really quickly. I think maybe it's still on shelves, but it's like it doesn't seem like anybody really cares about it right now. But like how quickly, well, those things seem like they have just a crap ton of caffeine in them, and they are marketed at children. If we have to be totally honest, and I think so. How much power is our modern influencer having, over our youth and greater society? But how quickly is it a danger to society? How quickly these fads like come in and seem like they warp an entire landscape or marketplace just really quick, and then they disappear. And it's almost like, is there a bullwhip happening where it seems like this is getting like worse and worse? Sometimes I feel that way, but I don't know. It's weird to observe everything that's happening culturally and like what is going to become of it.
I think in the realm of like content creation and as far as influencers go, because that's what influencers do at the end of the day. They create content to influence you and direct your energy towards whatever fucking product they're trying to like hustle or whatever. Whether or not they even believe in it is kind of like irrelevant at this point. But I think when it comes to content creation being kind of like normalized in society, it's really probably going to turn out like one or the other. It's either going to be good for you, where like someone who actually has like good values and a bunch of cool shit to share has an opportunity and platform to actually share it with the world. Otherwise, it would never be out there. And then on the other end, you have like people who literally only care about like objectifying your attention, your energy into something that's like materially beneficial for them, if not necessarily for you. But what I'm curious about is like that whole Bored Ape thing. I mean, how much of it was actually like started or like conceived by like 4chan or something, like, and which leads to the next question is like, how much of 4chan is actually like, are there like really like pro level like psyop people in 4chan just like fucking around or running actual ops? Probably both, like.
We live in a digital world. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, what kind of moral hazard is lying in there? A lot of it seems so ridiculous, and like it's almost like there's that part of your brain that wants to view all of this like it feels like the entire time NFTs were just a joke, and the people that could actually perpetuate the joke just happen to have a lot of money. So like who are the people that actually bought in and thought that was amazing? But at the same time, I think all of us know like a story of someone who really, really like bought into the idea of crypto, getting in on it and probably lost a lot of money. Like no matter what, Bitcoin is doing right now, that's one form of coin. You can, there's no requirements essentially to make a new digital currency out there, a new cryptocurrency. So a lot of these people, I think it revealed a lot of layers of things. I think it did reveal in some ways, like people have this overall feeling of desperation of, oh, my life sucks right now. How do I get out of this? And like, it's like just displacing that impulse to like buy a lottery ticket. You know what I mean? That's what a lot of people were feeling when they got in on the crypto thing. Hi, Andrew. Nice to see you.
Hey, how's it going?
I mean, what's interesting is like the degrees of failure with each layer, like past Bitcoin. So you have Bitcoin, and then you're assuming it's like, oh, this is going to work eventually. Like the value of this is going to go up exponentially, so you could buy into Bitcoin. But then you have something like Ethereum, where you assume like, oh, if Bitcoin works, then Ethereum will probably work. And then you have like you go further and further down the crypto tree, where it's like, oh, okay, well, if Ethereum works, then this will work too. And then for each new layer you get past, that's like another degree of fucking something that could go wrong, and you could just end up fucked over with all your money. And I think that's just how like crypto investing has always worked. I mean, it's enticing because you get a lot of leverage with like really cheap coins. Like, oh, you're telling me I could buy like 100,000 coins at 1 cent, and then it balloons to like 50 cents, and suddenly you 50 extra cash. Like, great. But like that's like not as, it's not really a viable thing, because it could tank just as fucking quickly. That's something you want to avoid. So like, I guess like, it's really like people buy into that shit because it's cheaper than owning, say, one fucking Bitcoin, which is over like 60 grand, So I guess that's like, I assume that's what's really the most enticing thing about taking like the stupider bets compared to like something that's safer, less like more risk averse, but not as profitable in the short term.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know how much you can like talk conspiracy, like when it comes to like the middle class. And I don't know that much about the history of like how long certain societies have had middle classes. I think, I think they bounced around. That would be a great topic of research. But yeah, so if anybody knows like a good history of middle class all across the world, it's that's a great thing to talk about. But I think all of this does tie into a slow death of the middle class, and it's so hard to actually talk about the subject because some people can think you're just thinking about it in conspiratorial terms, and I do think it's burning a little bit on both ends. Like if people are in the middle class, they have to reinforce the middle class and validate themselves and say, okay, this is good for society. We shouldn't have too many people with concentrated wealth. And a lot of people aren't doing that. Like every time you buy a lottery ticket, for example, I know that sends your money to the state, but you are surrendering a portion of your middle or often lower class wealth, which, lotteries themselves are probably a little bit predatory. That's just my personal opinion. But yeah, it's so how much fault is that from the people who are being a predator? But at the other end of it, how easy is it to be aware and just say, okay, no, I'm not going to participate in these bad habits? And a lot of people, I think, just voluntarily keep participating in these bad habits, and it exacerbates the problem. So like, how would we even like tinker in and solve all of this if there's something to be solved, and not just devolve back into feudalism essentially?
Well, a huge problem is the dollar itself, because the dollar can only depreciate in value, and nothing we can do can actually change that. Like, I mean, sure, maybe you'll get lucky with a solid investment, or maybe I don't know, you figure out, you discover something in your life that has immense value and you just get a lot of money for it. That's great. But I don't think like there's a scalable like solution, because the dollar is just fucked. It's just the way it, like by nature of it, the value of it has to go down. It has to be worth less than what it was. And that's like bad news if you are like middle class. That means if you're not constantly getting a raise every single year by like X percentage, then you're gonna get fucked, and you're eventually going to be poor within like 1 or 2 generations, if that. So it's like, I mean, again, this ties back into Bitcoin. Like, this was the whole point. I don't know if I believe in it. I mean, I don't have all my assets in Bitcoin.
Yeah,
Who knows?
do you think there's a way that we can fix the dollar? Like, is there any, like, I've been thinking about this a lot. I don't know if I'm smart enough to know. I'm at the dock. I'm driving. Everything's ready. I'm in the show. I'm excited. Sorry to cut you off. But yeah, I'm excited.
Cool.
Well, it's all good. So yeah, with the dollar, most governments nowadays have fiat currency, and it's one of the least publicly analyzed systems of currency. I think we just kind of accept, oh, we got fiat because we just made it up. That's essentially the difference between fiat and something that's based on something like precious metals is like if you tie your currency to precious metals, you are tying it to a tangible physical piece of reality. And I think that's the one thing that scares a lot of people now.
It's a little arbitrary, no?
I mean, it's arbitrary in a sense, but it's like, well, how materialist are we?
Well,
like, are we going to deny the existence of like gold or silver or platinum or titanium?
Let's say our goal in the next 200 years is to get off planet and to start civilization on moons or planets in our solar system. Then at some point we'd have to find another resource to manage the economy of our solar system as like other than gold. Gold is just meaningless.
Earthbound, yeah.
Well, even like if you did,
let's say we could find way more valuable resources out there, and like there's the whole economy would have to shift.
Yeah.
So it has to boil down to energy.
Right. Yeah. Well, I was taking a different stance on that particularly. I wasn't saying necessarily like that I'm advocating for, currency to be tied to physical reality.
Sort of unrelated. There's a tornado warning here, so if anyone could just like positive power to the positivity, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Got you, Andreas.
Sending you best wishes.
Unwind, Andreas.
We'll all spin our fidget spinners the other direction.
You're so wound up, you caused a tornado.
All right. So, what were you saying?
Yeah, with currency, it's like fiat definitely has its own disadvantages, and like people have to acknowledge that. Okay, we fuck ourselves if we choose to just essentially just make up. Well, the idea of currency, yes, it's a man-made invention, but then beyond that, making it like an invention squared by saying, okay, it's worth whatever the fuck we want to say that it's worth, and we can just create all of it out of a digital impulse. That's obviously you're going to have problems with that. And the other end of that was like, well, theoretically, going back to getting your currency tied to physical reality, that would solve a lot of those problems. But the U.S. had a unique problem, and I read a little bit about it. I could probably read more. But when you have a great currency, that's backed by something and is very reliable, that makes it tempting for the rest of the world to treat it as the reserve currency. So when your currency gets treated as the reserve currency, all of a sudden, like, you have the sudden demand for your currency, and all of a sudden it's kind of inflexible. And so because you want to drive it to be flexible and meet the world demand, you're like, okay, what alternatives do we have? And that's essentially what happened to the dollar. Is it became the global reserve currency. It was really powerful. The U.S. had and still has a lot of influence, but it was like, okay, how do we meet all the demands of everyone? And so the only inevitable solution to that was essentially going off of the gold standard. And of course, that led to a myriad of other problems that we have today. So
yeah, like credit.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, but the thing is, if we have gold like as the standard or some other arbitrary resource or metal, like, we'll just wage war for it. We'll just be like, hey, you have more of that thing. We need more of that thing to be in power. Therefore, we're going to take it from you, and then you'll end off fighting each other.
We've already did that to a certain.
Well, yeah, you have to.
The thing is, with currency that we have now, I mean, there's problems with it, but ultimately anyone can accumulate it. Of course, it depreciates in value, but that means that anyone can at least acquire it, while they'll keep hoarding a higher and higher number that becomes truly arbitrary after a while. But we can still go and make $80,000 or $500,000 and still feasible, and that's still a huge amount of money for us, you know. So as opposed to having gold, where we're like, okay, well, we have to somehow make more gold or find go take their gold, I guess. Like,
Yeah,
at some
yeah.
point, it's like, what we're
They're
gonna
talking
go
about mining asteroids and shit.
yeah, but
I know, it's pretty ridiculous.
no, but hey, you know, resources are super important, but they can't be the currency itself, or like
No.
that's bartering to a degree, you know, and that's fine if you want a bartering system,
Or
but
if
like,
you're into investing in futures or something, yeah.
yeah, like money is a system to control the poor, I think, because the rich, they
Yeah.
trade in resources, while the poor, they go like, well, I have to pay rent, basically.
Exactly.
so
and
yeah.
that's why if your minimum wage was still like whatever the fuck, if it was like an ounce of silver like it was like 50 years ago, you'd be making some bomb ass money working at McDonald's. You know, that's the way it goes. But yeah, so I think that's another big problem is like, yeah, fiat is kind of part of the reason that you know, the poor get effed more and more consistently. Although we have reasonable social welfare programs that do come with their own stigmas if you participate in them, of course. But it's like, what is our overall system of controlling people? How much is that system of controlling people justified? Yeah, I don't know. Where are
It's-
things going? How do we fix that?
It's scarcity mindset. That's really what's being
Yeah.
enforced to be able to control people in the first place. To even like have money, give money its purpose, people have to feel a sense of scarcity, of either not having enough or the possibility of not having enough. So it's ultimately like rooted in fear, I guess you could say. But it's like kind of at that point it's like, all right, so what do people ultimately fear losing the most, or whether they know it or not? Like essentially what do we consider the most valuable resource? And it has to be like energy, right? Like compared to anything else, you can't really like commodify time that easily. I mean, you can't
Well,
like because
the
you're
basics,
constantly
right?
losing it. Yeah,
Energy is one thing, but food, water, air, the things,
Yeah.
the three basic things that we need to live is the most important
Shelter,
resources.
I think those are for
is
essential for our body.
secondary.
Yeah. Energy
yeah,
is
but the energy is meaningless without those three. You know.
Well, I think
That's-
energy is important to enact your will, not necessarily just to survive. Like
I
after
agree,
you
I agree.
survive, if you want to do anything, you need energy. But as far as just living, you're right. You need that food, water, and air. And I guess that's something. You know, that's definitely not nothing. You know, you definitely need those things.
And even
Right,
the control
so-
over those resources being
Really, it's
polarized to the world.
It's all about power. It's all about influence, and that dynamic is determined usually by a predetermined hierarchy, like that's handed down generation to generation. Whether we like it or not, most politicians in ranks of power are related to each other and to the monarchy, and it's not for nothing. It's just
Yeah, can't like the
We
English
pretend that it's
crown
not.
train its lineage all the way like back to Roman times or something?
yeah. Well, that's that. I mean, they say it's to Jesus.
They say
The-
most presidents are related.
They say Jesus and Vlad the Impaler. Those are the two sources of the British monarchy. So and that's, you could check that. So Dracula and Jesus, two polar opposite symbols.
kind of like alien families, I guess. Like alien family dynasties. They could be advanced like Anunnaki lineage or whatever.
I think that's a
I mean, that's the
subtext, isn't it?
That's
Yeah.
the claim. That's the claim of the monarchy, is that they're descended, they're appointed by God, and that they have this sort of like holy lineage as a result. And anyone can claim that. It's rather easy.
That's true.
We
then
was
there-
Anunnaki.
And then there's that whole like conspiracy theory. I don't even think it's a conspiracy theory. Like it was actually proven that all the like I think like 95 or something percent of the presidents can all trace their lineage back to like the same family of like I think it was one of the British kings.
100% all to King John Plantagenet, who was forced at knife point to sign the Magna Carta, which of course is a contract that says that we have a Bill of Rights as civilians, but a contract is a mutually agreed agreement, right, between two mutually benefited parties, voluntary parties. So it's not a real contract, it's a blackmail document.
Oh shit. So I mean, there you go. Like all the presidents are related. So ultimately, we're all just fucking slaves. We're slaves for the material industrial complex. Everything we essentially like do with our lives is ultimately, I mean, materially is in service, not spiritually. That you can't really like, you know, put a claim on that as like an evil entity like that. But you can like enslave people physically to just put all their conscious effort unknowingly into supporting this like mass multi-transcontinental like behemoth that just, you know, treats lives as another resource, and we are those lives. Not to be bleak, I mean, I think like you could still
It's a
find good in the
material
world.
fact.
Well, you know, we are the most powerful and comfortable and blessed slaves that have ever existed in the history of humanity. So
You gotta think how weird it is.
for what
that,
it's
like,
worth,
you gotta think how weird
it's
it is. That, like,
it's a good time to be born.
if I were to take $1,000 and I'm like, that's not a lot of money. I think actually, you know what? Scott's literally saying this right now, which is pretty funny. Yeah, if you take like $1,000 and you bring it, or $100 is $1,000, right? So like for a bank, you know, you're actually worth 10 times as much money as you think you are. Like $10,000 for $1,000, $20,000 for $2,000. The small amount of money that you live off of is the money that makes the system work. So you're filling it in a way you have no idea how much more value they're getting out of you than you're getting out of yourself, right? But that's huge. It's a huge amount of value. And again, if your word is your bond, that's really what it seems like the elite do, is they make agreements with each other. I'll do this, you do that. I'll work on your movie, you work on my movie. I'll help you with that. I'll trade you my property. I'll trade you this property. And it avoids all of that, the system, right? That's the system that's making all the 10x on you.
Yep.
Yeah, 'cause the
Avoid
banks just sit on
contracts,
it
go
and
directly,
trade on
cut out the
options.
out the middleman, basically, as much as possible.
Yeah. Okay. So, like, we have this big stock market, but even before, I think now it's tough to measure the stock market just because, again, we have such a flexible currency now. But even in the days where we had an inflexible currency, it was providing still really good returns over time. And so it's hard to exactly measure what that outlook is going to be like over the future. I think with the US, I think we have a lot of special rules in place, specifically for industry. And our industry does have a huge control portion of the elections as well. And so, because of all those special rules, I do think, you know, everything's just kind of geared to get returns out of the stock market, even if the stock market is we'll say theoretically it's a net negative on human existence. It's still going to provide financial returns and try to expand and do something.
I love the stock market. I mean, this is gonna sound really like fucked up, but when COVID happened, I don't know what it was, but I was never invested in anything. But as soon as COVID hit, my immediate like instinct was, you know what, I'm gonna open up a brokerage account because I already have a business bank account, and I'm just gonna start like trading stocks. I mean, the experience was great. I didn't make too much. I only made like a few thousand because I fucked around a lot with options. But it was cool, you know. It was a great opportunity to just go into the stock market at a time when you could like just, it's like closing your eyes and throwing a dart at a dartboard behind you and hitting bullseye every time because it was just so fucking easy. Of course, like
You
good
mean
times ended, so you had to like know what to pull
gambling.
out. Yeah, it was
Gambling.
gambling, but it was like the odds were really good at the time.
That's why it's fun. It's gambling, of course.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it's-
but understanding what I was gambling with, like when it came to options, like understanding that, you know, yes, you can treat them as like lotto tickets, like especially if they're short expiry call options or put options or whatever, which are really fun, by the way. I don't recommend it if you don't have money to burn, but like it could be really fucking, it could be a rush. But like as far as like, you know, being able to create spreads and just literally just parking your cash and just rotating like 100 block shares to be able to like make money off of premiums, that's literally, to me, as a person who wasn't born from a rich family, the fact that I could like work hard, get, you know, a bit of wealth, like, you know, what little I get, like a few thousand, maybe 5,000, put that in the stock market, buy like 100 shares or 200 shares of something, And every like month, maybe every bi-week or whatever, every 2 weeks go by, I could just like rotate my 100 block shares and like into call options and then just constantly like wheel that. And I'm basically at that point making money doing nothing. And if my it's a certain machine where it's like, okay, if you get executed on your options, you just fucking fork over your shares, you lose nothing because it was all secured. You know, you had the money to buy the shares in the first place, so it's not really gambling. It's just kind of like, it's like moving a product. You know, it's literally like just moving around your money as if you're like filling the shelves at your store every fucking week. And if it sells, great. If it doesn't, then the product is still there, and you just make money every time it sits in that shelf. And it was fun. It was fun. It was cool learning about it. Now I know what to do with my money. If I get a lot of money, I'm not just gonna, like spend it on some fancy Walkman.
For sure. Well, now, yeah, sometimes having options. I don't mean options contracts. I mean options in general. Sometimes that's it's a double-edged sword because like now there's more options available to everyone in terms of financial instruments, and sometimes that's intimidating. So it's like, what do I invest in? And so like I did read a book. I read Boglehead's Guide to Investing, but there was this guy. His name was Bogle, but he had to do with the creation of Vanguard. So Vanguard's a huge financial company that does a lot of, we'll call them. They specialize in indexes, and that's when you buy one stock that's basically an amalgamation.
Like the S&P 500. Everyone loves SPY. SPY is sick. What's crazy? What blew my mind recently was the existence of Bitcoin ETFs. When I first heard that, I was like, wow. At that point, I might as well just start fucking dumping my money into Bitcoin, because if that happens, that's a sign. That's one of those like harbingers, or like, I guess, like omens. Like, dude, that's crazy. I never thought that would happen like so soon, so suddenly, where it's just out of nowhere. It's like, oh yeah, you could invest in Bitcoin ETFs now. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I guess you can get into a lot of philosophical discussions about what corporations do, but I think at the end of the day is like, you can come up with an idea as, is there any company in the world that's doing something good and or necessary for human existence? And chances are, if they are, then it's something worthwhile. But like the thing is, yeah, people can't really like invest in the ways that they've been trying to do it since 2020 is like buy sell buy sell buy sell. Well, not only
no, what you got to do is the best way to do it is to just profit off of other people's stupidity. Because the thing is, now that there's so many retail investors like pouring in due to apps like fucking Robinhood and shit, so many people are just pouring in and like making stupid ass fucking bets with options. So it's an expensive way to get started, but whatever, it's worth it because it's safe. So if you own the 100 share block and you sell like a call option against it, you're not really like risking anything, because as long as you hold on to the shares, it's covered. It's basically secured. So it's like, and let's say it hits that strike price that you sell the option against, it's okay, because the only thing you're losing is your shares, and you don't lose your shares, you sell your shares at the strike price you yourself set. So it's not really like, gambling or like really like buy sell trading. What it is, it's leveraging assets, in my opinion, because your assets can be put on the line for a premium. You get to farm those premiums, and that's kind of the game. It's been a while since I was... Wait, say what?
Like with...
I'm just telling all y'all it's sabotage.
All right.
Good. So, like, they're around 80% of money market managers, they can't beat simply even the S&P 500. And so like when you get there, of course there's always options that there are tools that you can use that often take a lot of mental energy in order to execute effectively. And there are certainly cases where like if you held stocks and you're like, oh, I'm going to sell options on the stocks that I own, like, yeah, you can make money, but there's situations where just holding that good asset will outperform even selling those options. And there's lots of fluctuations and they're hard to predict. Most people, the reason why I think most people, if they just dollar cost average into the S&P 500 over time, they're like, for example, just we'll say throw $100 at it every single month for 20 years, they tend to vastly outperform everyone, and that's because the selection system for the companies that get into the S&P 500 is pretty objective. It's very cold and emotionless, and basically they have to evaluate their market cap, how long they've been a company, have they been profitable for 4 consecutive quarters, and that's a pretty good objective standard for trying to include something. And that's not something that people can be totally, emotionless about when they're
No,
trying to select in their person.
Yeah, like
for-
chances are your portfolio is never going to fucking outperform like the S&P 500. It's never going to outperform SPY. It's
Yo,
just
I
the way
just
it
want to
is,
tell everybody really quick while I'm actually on, because it might be interesting to the folks at home, that it is really strange. See, I'm a truck driver. I'm driving right now, and somehow I have 5G. I've gone all over this entire country, in the last 3 months, like 50, almost 50 states, 41, 42 states, and I have 5G full bars all the time. The only times I haven't is when I try and get onto this show. I don't know if it's been some of the stuff that I've been talking about on Facebook with terrorists over here. I don't know, like the stuff that I wanted to bring up on the show here and there. I don't know what it is. I can only speculate. Like, I don't know what it is everywhere in the country, guys. So I'm just gonna hang back. I'll speak when I can. I'll try and stay in. But the people at home, they love good conspiracy. So I wanted to throw that out there. It's just uncanny. It's very strange. Very
Probably the Illuminati.
Fascinated.
Yeah, so back to honestly, this is what I meant to ask like miles back, but when it comes to the Bored Ape shit and the I think there's like some serious iconography like on that shit. I want to know like what's the story with like the ape figure or the icon. And I mean, yeah, I could see like how it could be connected to, I guess, like racism, like racist expression at one point, or it was used as like racist expression. But I think that was like someone was referencing me, like someone was sending me a video on it, and I want to know like what that's about because I didn't have time to see the rest of it. Do you know, Kurt?
Do you think it could just be that the people that made the video that are going in depth trying to find reasons that it's like 4chan racism is really just maybe an illustration of the depths that people will go to dive in and find racism in everything these days? Like, that's another aspect of it that I just want to explore a little bit.
Well, you can find racism in everything because people are sometimes like, it's like, you have something like Stone Ape you have something like Bored Ape that comes and people are just gonna be like, oh, it's a monkey is a racist slur, therefore they use it as a racist slur. But there's plenty of people who don't, because monkeys are a thing on their own. So obviously not everyone who makes those memes is racist, and plenty of people push into racist directions.
It's not about like the
right. That's not where my mind jumped when I first saw Bored Ape. I didn't think racial stuff. I thought it's not about. To be honest, I thought just you're dumb.
It's not about ethnicity. It's like in 2001: A Space Odyssey, you have the ape that picks up the bone and uses it as a tool, which differentiates the Ubermensch from the Undermensch, right? So this idea of the Overman, the Superman versus the Underman, that's the difference between the Bored Ape and the exceptional ape, the super ape, right? I think that's kind of what they're saying. And it's more...
Yeah, I tend to agree.
Yeah, well,
so it's like not... So it's... I'm sorry, continue.
The Bored Ape has his neurology farmed by... like machine structures, basically, because that's what boredom is. There's no bored monkeys in the forest or in the jungle. They're having a blast fucking and eating berries and killing stuff, And while they come here and they're forced into a cage,
yeah, you got to be a stupid human to be bored.
You're not bored, you're just boring.
I think boredom is just a byproduct of... It's a byproduct of the neurological farming that our culture engages in through television and social media and
Oblivious.
music, and like constantly needing to be overstimulated is the name of the game. And so when we're not overstimulated, suddenly we're bored and we seek out stimulation.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
after
what is the what's the TikTok attention span supposed to be of the TikTok generation these days? Wasn't it like 7 seconds, or has gone down since then? Like it was something ludicrously low.
It's the real, man. It's the
Yeah,
real.
you got to catch people in the first like 10 seconds.
yeah, that part is like weird, but we have an attention economy for sure. But
We pay, man. We pay attention, bro.
I think the scientists were literally trying to say that people's attention span is an average of 7 seconds. I can't remember if I heard that right, if it was 15 seconds or...
Who just said, we pay attention, bro? We're always paying.
Me, those names.
Oh, yeah, a lot is so like now I'm in my 30s, and I think maybe a couple
Boo.
of other people here are 30s. Woo! All right, but
Yeah,
now,
33, bro.
No, I said boo.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
the age of Jesus.
Yeah, 33.
Me too.
I'm Jesus as well, but
We're all
There-
Jesus here.
but-
We're all different. We're all different manifestations of Jesus. We're actually a very diverse group right now. We're just
Weren't we
Hitting 'em
talk-
up with some
weren't-
Christ.
weren't we talking about that before? We were literally talking about how everyone's just like the same soul living out different lifetimes in different bodies. We're all just
Yeah,
different versions of each
sure.
other. Yeah, and it's
And
I've
then while
always-
we're talking about past lives and stuff, and it's like, well, if
you already lived it all. You did it all. It's not linear. Chances are you've been all of it. Like you've been a cop, you've
Exactly.
been a criminal.
I am you and you are me.
And I tried to quibble. I tried to quibble and say, no, we're all the same soul, but we're a different spirit.
Yeah.
Because nobody
That's-
knows what the difference between soul and spirit is, anyways. So that's just my sense of humor. Yeah.
Yeah.
the
I mean,
Holy Spirit.
It's a valid
Well,
possibility.
we're clearly not exactly the same, so fair point for sure.
Yeah.
What do you guys think the difference between soul and spirit is? Because this is something that I always forget what I think. So does anybody have this broken down? Because I'm sure there's somebody that's like esoteric out there that knows exactly.
I have a guess.
This is soul.
I have a guess.
This is spirit.
So-
Okay, I'll tell you what I
soul,
think later.
I think it's cultural, really.
I
Depends on the context.
I view soul as analog and spirit as digital.
I've
Okay,
looked
break
at it
that
as
down.
like
I view soul as adherent to the individual and spirit as defining more collective boundaries. Yeah.
Okay, so
Okay.
I was
the
looking at
spirit
it.
of the age.
I was looking at it where like soul is the true essence of the self, like who you are, and that fractalization of like the over soul, which is like I guess the God soul or whatever, where our soul comes from, like the ocean where the little water droplets that is our soul, our individual souls, eventually return to after the body dies or however you want to define it. But I look at spirit as like kind of like the energy, like chi or mana or whatever. I guess
Okay,
in some like
So
occult
this is the simple way that I decided to break it down yesterday. This is just like because I was trying to think about it. Is that soul is like your emotions. It's the way that you experience. Your soul is like what you're in. It's like, well, not what you're in, but what is like projecting, right? That's your soul. And then your spirit is your higher self. That's the way that I'm kind of articulating it in my head. The spirit is your higher self.
I might say that like soul is kind of, the immaterial essence of a person and all that, but that could be made up of spirit. So you could say that the soul is the combination of the spirit and the body. And that spirit is sort of the fundamental. Spirit being energy is more fundamental, but soul being kind of the unique intrinsic combination between the intelligence and that spirit, right? And intelligence is a whole other thing, but that's kind of what body is on a celestial scale, because we think of the body as this material system, but that material system has philosophical capacity, right? Like to learn and to harness information. So I feel like intelligence is also part of the equation of what is able to use soul.
I would agree.
So not
I
just
think,
emotion, but mind as well, maybe.
Yeah,
Well,
because
you know, like when you
has like a spectral connotation to it. You know, it's like you could be mean spirited or be in high spirits or low spirits. So maybe the spirit is sort of like what wavelength or frequency, but the soul
Like the
is like the
tuning fork?
medium. Exactly. Yeah, and the soul is the medium through which the waves of spirit kind of like act.
I mean,
Does that
Okay.
make any sense?
this is really
Yeah.
this is really a semantic issue, like because these terms they are interchangeable depending on the context. So
Yeah,
you know, like let's say we say we're
Totally.
embodying the spirit of, I don't know, Michael Jordan while we're playing basketball. Well, we're saying that we're taking his essence and we're embodying it. So I think it's the essence of the individual that is the spirit. But again, it's semantic, so it depends on context. Like spirit runs through all
Right, because somebody could
things.
also call that the soul just as easily.
Yeah. Because I mean, we could say the
Oh, we lost you.
spirit, and it would
Oh,
have
no.
the same function ultimately. So it's really a semantic thing, and I think that it's actually an issue of ineffability, because these things are linguistically bound, but they're actually boundless concepts that exist
Right, because
outside
we
of
can't
how
go.
we articulate them.
Right, because we can't go up inside each other's experience. That's the reason that it's so hard to do spirit science, because you can't like get them. You know, you can't get an objective reading on somebody else's experience. For all I know, of course, like you guys aren't even here, and I'm just tripping out in my head alone
That's the
in the
spirit.
corner of the universe. You know.
But what is interesting is despite the fact that we cannot get up in each other's experience, there's still the fact that we all adhere to patterns, like patterns of behavior, patterns of thinking, and patterns of feeling. And because we adhere to patterns, that kind of always makes us readable, and it makes us built up of at least something fundamental. It's never like purely subjective. It's never purely unique. I mean, it's unique in a sense where it could be uniquely us, but it's ultimately like a culmination of like pattern things, of things that work in sequence.
Yeah, I mean, we could see the lights in each other's eyes for sure. You know?
Yeah, for
But
sure.
the beginning is different than the end. So no, like if we're in a cycle, then we're repeating the cycle. But with each cycle, there's a new thing that is gained and that is built upon. So the present isn't exactly the same as the past, no matter what. So hey, it's unique in the process, but as part of a process, it's not unique. It's functional. It's just a part of the wave. You know.
Kurt, are you saying, are you a woo materialist atheist, Kurt, or do you vibe with this stuff, or do you have a more like materialist way of looking at it, or how do you feel about this? We're talking about spirit and all that stuff. Does that vibe?
Yeah, do you look at this like a metaphor, or is this like?
Okay, so well, I think for people that might have been watching this show for maybe a little while now, like they probably know, like I view materialism as just being a perspective. I think it's important not to disregard perspectives or say it's like this perspective versus this perspective. I generally tend to lean towards spirituality and material, like viewing things in spiritual terms. I think it's a lot more functional, at least a lot more functional than the way we've been approaching the world for the past couple of hundreds of years. So that being said, no, I'm not a materialist. I think it's important to incorporate that perspective into your overall philosophy, but that's not
Right, like you have to have it. You have to be able to look at it that way too, right? It's like that's what you're saying.
Yeah, you have to understand where the materialists are coming from, but I think there's something like people that adhere to strict materialism are missing such a huge portion of the picture, and also closing off their own potential to grow and appreciate life for what it is. I think I
Sure.
think yeah, to come with materialism, strict materialism, I think it makes people much more likely to be nihilists. Tying that back
To me, it's a.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, to me, it's a shame. Like everybody might experience, because you're talking about a lot of the experience and your perspectives and stuff. So everybody might experience materialism a different way than I do. But the way that I experience materialism, I've been a materialist. I've been an angry atheist. When I was 14, I was like cutting edge atheist. Nobody else knew what I was talking about. You know what I mean?
Cutting edge
And, like,
atheist.
from my perspective, being a materialist or an atheist or both is like sad. It's like you're leaving out all of the possibilities outside of that you may not notice because you're like going out of your way not to notice it because you think it's crazy, or I don't know how to really put it into words better than that. It feels like there's this whole.
I think reality is multidimensional, so you need to have a multidimensional perspective. You can't only see things from one perspective because it literally has different facets, and so you need to adjust your lens based on the dimensions you're trying to look at reality through.
Sure, like being able to empathize with people too is so important as well with that.
That creates a new dimension, with the dimension of the individual perspective. Go on.
I'm sorry. Okay, I had this question before, Vince. I think I asked you. I was like, what do you think humanity would look like if every single person in the world knew how to, at will, make themselves happy or sad using just their thoughts? And then I was like, yeah, I still think people would fight. I think people would still have a reason to fight, but they would just fight in a very, very, very different way. You know, like it would be crazy.
Yeah, well, I think fighting makes people happy. So
yeah,
you know, it's like everyone's.
Yeah, you can get like creative warfare with your fights. If you could just be happy anytime and just be like, oh, just kidding, like it's okay, we weren't really fighting. You know,
play
like
fighting,
you get really intense with it. Yeah, you could go like full nuclear strike with people, and then the next second be like, ha. Aren't we best friends? You know,
I think the problem with happiness, or let's say experienced or perceived happiness, is that it locks you in place because you don't want to get out of where you are because you might risk losing that happiness. So if everyone's comfortable and they're all happy, they won't have any evolutionary pressures to actually grow and change.
Well, what would be the point to grow?
I don't think that everyone being happy is. Well, I think the end goal might be collective happiness, and might be, who knows? But you know, for now, I think we suffer because we have to, and we eventually will outgrow a lot of the things that are making us suffer. But we find new reasons to suffer. You know, we take out the physical suffering, and then we have mental suffering that pops up. So
yeah, I feel like if we could all just be purely happy, a bit imagination, if everything was like that, if it was just like pure bliss like that, everything would just freeze into place. It would be like like the it would be like the universe had run its course, right? So you go back to the Big Bang, okay? And you're here, and then everything solidifies into perfect. And you're all stuck. You're just all smiling, and you're stuck. There's nowhere to go from there, right?
Sounds
like,
miserable.
like, what else would you do?
Entropy.
Well, do you think that you could still recognize a existential threat, despite still being happy, and dealing with that existential threat despite still being happy? Like, let's say it's like, you know, we managed to live in this pure blissful utopia for like millions of years, and we're like, oh, hey, by the way, the sun's about to burn out. Yeah, we should probably do something about that. And yeah, I'll elect to do something about that.
Oh man, it would make me happy to fix that. Yeah. Wouldn't that just make us so happy to go fix that entropy problem? Yeah.
You know, I think that
Let's do it.
You know, happiness is a tricky thing because, like, let's say everyone's happy and then there's an asteroid coming. Can they be happy about the asteroid destroying everything? Like, will they even, you know, there's a game called We Happy Few, and it's about a drug that makes everyone happy all the time, and they have to always take it because otherwise they're
I've seen that
drama.
Well,
like, at some point, happiness is used against you.
I'll tell you this much.
Isn't that the one that they're all smiling like psychotically all the time? Like
I think they'll have to have a wear mask. I think they have to wear a mask all the time.
Well, I mean, let's be real.
It's too creepy. Yeah.
But the truth is, it's never going to fully like freeze like that, because, I mean, like you would surmise, like if you put thought into it, you'd be like, the true key to happiness is understanding that It's like the experience, like a pendulum. You know, it's going to be positive, then negative. The only
The world's
thing
gonna keep happening around you.
The only thing you can be sure of is movement. It's never going to stay still. It's never going to fucking stay in one place. It's never going to stay negative. It's never going to stay in the positive. And that can be distressing for some, but it could be really, really comfortable if you get used to that idea. And I think the counterpoint, like the response to that, is knowing that it's always going to swing, is you discover it doesn't just swing left and right, but your place in it could also swing up and down, which is why people like pray or meditate. Because when it swings one way, the mastery is to know that's when you come down. That's when you come down to earth and enjoy it and enjoy the good times. And when it goes to the left side, that's when you meditate, and that's when you tap into your higher self.
It would be nice to be able to be happy and sad, but without the pain that comes along with it. So like if we could just like address our emotions and carry on and like and take care of things logically, but also not have to like be sad and in pain about it, but just be sad. Like we're just feeling sad. That would be a lot better, in my opinion.
That seems to describe mushrooms to me.
Yeah, there's that powerful motto, you know, I am not my thoughts. It's like you can let the feelings come and go because they're just feelings.
You treat your emotions like visitors passing through you, you know, like honored guests. It's like, oh, welcome,
you're just
anger.
like
Goodbye, anger.
Riding the vibe.
Yeah, and the truth is, those emotions only betray you when you try to like keep them in place, when you try to keep them still, and like when you try to stay happy or stay angry or stay sad, whatever. That's when those emotions will bite back at you. They'd be like, "Fuck you! Now I'm gonna destroy you." You know, like it's you have to just like let it pass through.
Can we qualify those as spirits? They're like, you know, you have the spirit of anger running through you.
Hey, so by the way, like I think that my son is watching and he's 4 years old. So like I'm not trying to be like Disney censor on you guys or anything, but like just maybe try and keep that in mind for a moment. He's probably gonna go to bed in a second.
Hey, little guy.
This might not be the best place for a 4-year-old.
No,
maybe not, but he was just happy to see me. That's for sure.
If a 4-year-old can learn like.
I'll leave that managerial decision up to my wife. She can decide what she wants to do with it.
I don't know. A 4-year-old learning how to become like a metaphysical.
You know, actually, just let your flag fly. Forget I said anything, but just say hi to my son, please. His name's Keanu.
Hi,
Keanu?
Hi, Keanu.
Hi, Keanu. Nice name, bro.
And his middle name's Raiden. His middle name is Raiden.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, so what are you trying to make the most badass like future person?
It's actually Raiden Lee, like Bruce Lee. Yes, I am. He's the perfect avatar of gnarly.
All of them combined.
He's like all of if you took all of the Ninja Turtles and like all of the different like the names they're based off of, and you put them all together, that's my son, dude. He's the max. I'm so proud of him.
Maxed out. Yeah, the names are very powerful. You know, like I've always had to live with the name Christopher, and I never really identified as a Christian, I'll be honest. I was made to go to church a bunch of times, but just being named something like that, like...
Let's look up etymology.
Isn't Christopher the patron saint of safe travel?
Well, I think
bearer of Christ.
Bearer of Christ. Christ is with me, you know, and all that
Free stuff.
Yeah.
I thought it was like offered to Christ kind of thing, you know?
Maybe there were deals with angels made, you know, behind my back.
You never know. Unless you know and you just forgot because you're not supposed to know or something. One of those weird little tricks.
I'm really hoping that alien stuff really develops like quicker, because you know I would like to see some alien shit. You know, like I would like to see aliens make contact with us.
What about
dude? I really
Harvard scientists?
I think it's any minute, bro.
Harvard scientists say there may be an unknown technologically advanced civilization hiding on Earth. What about this one? This just came out the other day, yesterday, right? What if
like Gartha or whatever, or Atagortha?
An unknown, Gartha, or like.
Is it in the Antarctic?
What was it? Atagortha or something like that? Did you ever see that one? It was like
holograms actually visited Gartha. If you go watch Gem in Shambhala, Gem holograms. That's a great episode because Shangri-La, that's the one. Basically, they find their way into like the underground world with like the next star and everything like that while they're in China, and someone steals her earrings and mass manufactures them, and they have to find the original. But they end up going into Agartha and find their way like to Shangri-La, which is this underground world. I mean, it's all there, right? The idea that there's another civilization, but it's that the civilization's already here. It's just hiding from us. We're not able to reach it, or maybe our elite have some awareness of it. It's being kept secret. But I like.
Why do you think they hide? Are they scared of us, or they just hate us? Like they don't want to deal with us. We're boring. Like what is it?
I mean, yeah,
I think
like,
they made a deal.
Like a time travel thing, and you don't want to mess with the timeline, so you stay out of the way of, maybe they're us from the future.
Ooh, can I tell you guys a story?
Yeah.
I want to tell you a story so bad. I've never been able to tell anybody the story, like where there's an audience or anything. And I want to see if anybody has ever had an experience similar to this. Have you guys ever met a time traveler before?
No.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
What do you think?
All right. So here's the thing: is I'm not saying that I definitely met a time traveler, but I think I did, and here's why. So I'm 17. And I'm doing my first job. I was working at Arby's, okay? And so I'm 17 and I'm working right next to the high school. And it wasn't a bad day. It wasn't a good day. It was just like a regular day, like I'm just walking home. For some reason, I didn't get a ride that day. And so I was kind of bummed, like, oh, I have to walk like 2 miles to go home. But it was a nice night, right? So I'm walking, and right next to the Arby's, there's this bank, okay? And I'm walking past the bank, and I get this cold feeling, like this terrible cold chill. And it freaked me out. I'm like, what is this feeling, dude? And so I look over to my right, and there's this guy there just standing next to this big motorcycle. Dude, the motorcycle looked like totally custom. It looked like something like, have you ever seen the Spawn motorcycle, like the big Spawn motorcycle?
Yes.
It looked like I got the distinct impression this man made the motorcycle from the ground up. It was his motorcycle. It wasn't mass produced. It was something he created. And also his clothing. And he's just standing next to the motorcycle, completely silent. And he's got his helmet off in his hand. All of it was totally custom. It was like something out of this world, okay? Like you've never seen anything like this before. The guy either made it himself or he was not from here. He was from somewhere else. Like I can't explain it, but he looked like a night ninja. And so anyways, he's got just like this, he's got his face covered up to his eyes. And all I can see is his eyes. And so I look over, I'm freaked out. I look over, I catch him. He's standing next to the motorcycle. And I see his eyes, and he just gives me the 1,000-yard stare. Like this guy had seen some stuff, okay? Like he had a 1,000-yard stare. He's looking at me in the eye, and I'm looking at him, and I'm still dazed. I'm like, what's going on? But like we catch eyes for a minute, and he nods his just ever so slowly, as if to tell me, like, I've got your back. Like I have your back, is what he's saying to me. It was just the impression I got, and I'm like, that was weird. And I keep walking, and like, it's just what the fuck just happened, And I'm just in a daze, and I walk, but then I come out of it, and I'm like, what was that, dude? Like, because I was dazed, I was shocked. Like, what did I just see? And I turn around and I go back to the alley to look there, and he's got this big motorcycle, dude. He's gone. He's gone. Not a noise, not a sound. The dude is just gone completely. And that's not possible because he had such a big motorcycle. I would have at least heard him, like, and he's just gone, dude. And it was within the space of like 5-10 seconds. That guy is totally gone. But the thing that freaked me out the most is when locked eyes, they were my eyes. I recognized the eyes. And so, this is probably not true, and this is probably not what happened. It was just the impression I got. I've told this story here and there ever since. And it's always just kind of like, did I really see that? Like, was I tripping? Like I used to, be a little thin with the chemicals or whatever, but I don't think I was on anything. And it was just very strange. And I got the impression, I was telling myself the story later, trying to make sense of it. And I'm like, well, what if he was me? You know, like was he me from the future? Like what's going on? And the only thing I could come up with is that if he was me, which he's probably not, and I probably just hallucinated, didn't even see anything, but if he was me, he was coming to see me himself on a day that was normal, because he's like a time traveler. He's like this crazy night ninja badass on a motorcycle. And he's been through wars. You know what I'm saying? And he just wanted to be reminded of a day that nothing was going on in his life, that everything was normal. There was no drama. It was just a normal day. And he just wanted to see it one last time.
I
That's
mean,
my
you gotta think there's infinite potential futures for every single moment.
Yeah, I was gonna
in
say it's
our
got to be a
past.
different version of you. You know, at the very, it's not like a linear single line conveyor belt future.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, because I don't think I'm ever going to become that guy, but he was one of me. You know?
Yeah.
Or you
No.
were one of him, I think, is what's
There you
most
go.
important.
I mean, you know what?
You know?
I also have like, I use this all the time where I'm like, I tell people, I'm like, honestly, I communicate with my past and future selves all the time. Like, and it works. It really, really, really helps. Like, there's times when like, I mean, at first, like, I was like, this is a ridiculous concept. Like, how am I supposed to like communicate with my past and future selves? And then I tried it and I was like, all right, so I was communicating with my past self, and it involved a lot of like forgiving. It was like, yo, I forgive you, past me, for doing that really fucking stupid thing that you shouldn't have done and landed you in that stupid position. I forgive you for that. Because like, what else is there to do when you're talking to your past self? And then like, you know, that was one way to do it. And as for communicating with
This
my
guy,
future self,
it's like
I was like
he
writing
wanted me to. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say, like, communicating with your future self can be as simple as like writing yourself notes. But what were you saying, like, about your time travel?
Oh, it's like he wanted me to forgive him for killing people, like, because he was a murderer, and he wanted me to understand somehow that, like, because I was like the most pacifist person, and I wasn't like wimpy, but I was just I that was probably the time in my life where I felt the most strongly about it. Like I could be talking to you about it and cry in the moment while I'm talking to you about it back then. And it was like he wanted me to understand, like, things got real. Like he felt like he had to do what he had to do. Like there was stuff going on. He had to take care of things. Like sorry, you know. But he wanted me to be me instead.
You know what's really cool about this is the fact that we all, well, including you, like with the story, but we all technically have like an ally in some version of our future selves. Like, it may not be the linear future self, but it's some version of it where he's like a total badass. He's been through a lot of fucked up shit, or her.
Yeah.
And they know a lot more than you about shit. And you could always rely on them because somewhere out there, they're real. Like, you can actually consult them in your head. Like, all right, me from this future, like, what do you think I should do in this situation? And I don't think they're gonna give you a bad answer usually, you know, generally speaking. If it's you,
Yeah,
if you know it's
I'd
you.
really like to believe that he's connected, that it was real, because I'm telling you, those eyes, they were my eyes. You know your eyes. You look at yourself in the mirror your whole life, you know, and you can't mistake something like that.
I unpopular opinion, but I with all the changes in technology and the disclosure of UAPs and all that stuff, I think that commercial time travel is something that we may very well see in our lifetimes, or at least our kids.
Yeah, quantum computing can facilitate that, I think, with the right resources.
Well, I've always believed that because of this experience, that like wow, time travel must be closer than we think.
But time itself they try to like sell it as this really fragile thing, and I think that it's incredibly flexible because of the multifaceted nature of matter, our experiences, our souls, our spirits, or whatever, all of these infinite possibilities. You know, it's like, which past self, which consciousness are we going to, are the future people going to be traveling to? You know, is it going to be their linear past, or, you know, it's like, is them traveling going to create all of these new splinters and whatnot? And does that even really matter? It's like, is it a one-way ticket?
I see what you're saying. Yeah, like if it's possible at all, we can't just have everything break down just because one person traveled, right?
don't
Like
think it
it's got to
would.
be a part of like the flow of time in general. If it's possible, it's possible. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah. It's just an infinitely splintering, like I was saying before, like every past moment that we have has, infinite futures before it, and they could be extremely similar or incredibly different, but that potential for something to
Mappability.
be, yeah.
Like it's possible to map out like all your like personal life possibilities using a sufficient enough like piece of hardware or computing technology, and that would be insane. You know, you could literally create like entire lifetimes, whether through like however format you want to present it, but you can create it, and you could probably make people experience it, including yourself and your own like alternate lifestyle. Like imagine you could actually like go back in like and experience alternate versions, like different times, different things that would have happened if you made different decisions, and just seeing how different things would have turned out. That would be crazy.
Yeah. I mean,
Because technically
yeah,
anything's possible.
we have one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I sometimes I'm under the impression that I'm getting visited by like my grandkids or something. Like it's some like time tourism trip or whatever. And I mention this to my wife sometimes, and she says that I'm crazy. But it's an entertaining thought at the very least. I don't take it to heart, but I accept that as a possibility.
It would
Well,
definitely
you know
that.
deep down that you're feeling something sometimes, right? And you don't need to attach yourself to it for it to be possible.
You know this already, right? Colin, you're a member of X Church. I don't know. I don't know if maybe your future self with the motorcycle is. Is that how that works? But X Church is the time travel organization built around the concept of repairing the timeline. And
exactly
how Chris is explaining it. That Chris is exactly on it. We connect with the future self. There's even future selves for our grandchildren. If you are on the timeline that you're having grandchildren, or if you're on the timeline that you're memeing a religion for people that will know about you. There's ways that works, but if you're having grandchildren, it's going to be easier, surprisingly. I guess some people haven't figured that out. So head towards repair the timeline so that you can make friends with both yourself and other future selves. It's actually all about the idea of finding like the most practical future. I was wondering what Kurt thought about this.
I knew I couldn't have invented that, by the way. Like I knew that wasn't I know I wasn't the first one that came to this conclusion just because of how like intuitively.
The funny thing about time, space time, like what is it first, last? It's like as long as it's happening, you know what I mean? Like it's happening. When I hear you saying that, I know it's happening. That's what matters.
Yeah. I'm glad. I'm grateful, you know.
But Kurt, what do you think of time travel and your future self? Do you have a future self, Kurt?
Oh,
he's like, I am.
Can't hear you.
Is your mic off?
Check.
Okay, now we hear you.
All right. Depends.
We got you.
All right, now you're.
Yeah, need to get a new microphone. This SM58 it's pretty old. Yeah.
You have to send me your address
It
after
lasts
this.
a long time, but they can only handle so many, mic drops until they go a little bit bad. But okay, future self.
You have a lot of those.
Yeah. If you think about the whole timeline thing, is like, do you have a future self? Do you have a past self, or do you just have one singular self moving through this delusion that we call time? You know what I mean?
You have multiple future selves.
Yeah, however you want to think it, but I think I don't know. I think the ether is real. I think you can communicate with anyone through the ether. It's so, and that includes all your versions of you, versions of you, which are yet to come. But yeah, that's the weird part, because you're always a new person.
Yo, I can't hear you.
You gotta get you a new cable.
Where's the GoFundMe for Kurt's new cable?
I need his address. We're sending him a microphone. Everybody, yeah, we're doing that. But also, Kurt, you said something about the ether.
Yeah, we're chipping in.
Check. Yeah.
Okay.
Ether. Yeah, I think you can communicate with everyone through the ether. that includes, you know, your future selves and your past selves, and hopefully that includes the best version of you and in there somewhere, because I don't think you're never done with the journey, you know. And so I don't think you're the same person you were, like, even materially, you're constantly, you know, regrowing your bones and stuff. You're not the same person you were 5
Yeah, your
years ago.
cells are dividing.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like, it's all a fluid motion. You know, you're like
Yeah.
70% water. And I think the more you
Well, it's
think
also-
about the fact, yeah.
And a lot of people say, like, I hear a lot of people say, like, time isn't real, time is an illusion, time is fake, which I kind of agree with, because in my opinion, I think ultimately all points in space and time are connected, and the question is, how are they connected? You know, like, but they are all connected. You know, and it's pretty much all connected through the mind.
Well,
that means our universe.
If time travel is possible, then there's already some here right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, so if it's possible at all, if it doesn't break the laws of physics, they're here. We're already time traveling, like, because there's time travelers here right now.
It's just our organic brains just view it like a conveyor belt, you know, at one fixed point, and that kind of like makes us like, it tricks us into thinking it's all only just that, you know.
Did you guys,
it's not
like,
true.
you guys watch that movie Primer? Have you seen the movie Primer?
I was thinking.
Yeah, but I was way too screwed up to understand it. Like, I was out of it.
Primer's a movie made by a Texas high school math teacher for $7,000 on actual 16mm film. It's actually like a completely shot on. It shows you how professional without entropy this man was, that he was able to make this movie for $7,000, the exact amount of money it would cost to buy the film.
Oh, it was amazing.
But the story is that you've got a guy who builds a machine that you can have a reset box to. It goes back to the moment it was turned on. So if they spend a week with the box on, they can go back to the moment when they turn on the box a week ago, right? And there are a number of time travel scenarios where this makes the most sense, where it's probable that we can travel within a certain range, that there is a machine running. And that maybe there are safety boxes that were inside of like several layers deep. So the idea that CERN might affect the timeline, that you're able to travel back to 2012, that there's a 1976 Utah linear accelerator, that China has one since 2016, that there are, so maybe the Chinese can travel back to 2016, maybe the US can travel back to 1950s, 1960s. But that there's.
Do you think there could be like beacons set up like all over the place, like a precursor race?
And I think that computers are able to communicate with each other through time, as long as they've been left on. These major server systems that the NSA have or the Soviets had, that they're able to communicate back to the moment that the first ion charge has been cycling, because it's a continuous ion. So the idea of the HTTP Looking Glass project, Looking Glass, the idea that you could use Windows computers or HTML computer systems, that the next computer back when CERN was building the earliest internet,
is that the one that you're supposed to be able to view? Is that like the Windows screen into like possible futures and stuff like that?
Or like a spiral mirror where you look at like infinite recursions of just pure reflection.
What if it's just the next cube in 1989?
Transnautica.
What if it's just a computer in 1989 that's able to have hypertext, that can have a looking glass in 1950s, that can print, you can have a printout of what you're seeing in 1989, right? And so you're able to send data from 1989 to 1956. You're allowed to send data to 1989 from 2012. And there are certain checkpoints, right? Because there are time police, right? There are people that control property the way that they control space. They're controlling certain times, and there's only certain routes to get through because things are controlled.
Do you think that people have like timeshares?
I do. I think civilizations kind of are trapped inside of each other, right? So yeah. I feel like if the United States wanted to, it could reset everything that's happened in the last 20, 40 years at least. And so anybody who's built their civilization, their modern civilization, like China, they can only go back so far, but they're kind of inside of this timeline. So whoever controls the timeline up to this point I mean, and you have to think about how much damage has been done. Like World War II, the Soviets, like billions of people around the world have died. Is this the most logical
Optimal.
timeline? Is this the
Optimal.
best timeline with
Right.
the least amount of death? Is this the most optimal?
Are we optimizing?
Have you
Yes.
guys?
Yeah, that's hard
The
to
answer
say.
is yes. The answer is always yes. Because
Anyone
ultimately it'll
familiar
be
with
yes.
I try to-
Randonautica?
Yes.
I mean, I try to be optimal about like basic things, not
I'm
like,
gonna
you
go
know,
with yes.
like really like conflated like social things like with relationships. I think it's bad to try to like objectively optimize relationships or whatever, but I try to optimize things like my diet, my physical activity, like my workout, because like I care about martial arts a lot. Like it's just something I invested a lot of time and energy into, so I want to keep doing that, and that's why that kind of like put me in this like mode of thinking where it's like, oh, so if I eat better, then I'll do better at this thing, or if I get more sleep, then I'll do better at this thing. If I do cardio, or if I do like strength training, I'll get better at this thing. Just because I love doing this thing so much, you know, not even like it was fun to me. You know, it's one of those things where I discovered that whether I do it for like 8 years or 80 years, there will still be like so many more things to learn. So I'm like, I want to keep doing it, and
Imagine
it's like
if everybody was living like that at the same time.
I think about that all the time. I said if
Like
everyone was like pushed to do martial arts, like 70% of our social issues would probably like magically disappear or something. But then new ones would take its place. Like
Right.
suddenly everyone would like be getting into fights and shit. It's like, yo, my technique is better than your technique, and they'll be like, no, it's not, yo.
Right. It would be like Samurai Champloo. It would be like Samurai Champloo, but everyone.
Yeah, it wouldn't
It'd be so badass.
Yeah, it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be.
I would kind of love
optimal.
that. I'm going to be honest. I would kind of love that.
Well, wasn't
Just
that
for
the
a while.
idea behind the UFC was to sort of like pit all of the different disciplines against each other, and then ultimately the best discipline was like the amalgamation of like, I don't know, the top 3 ones, which ended up being.
Dude, I'm still waiting for the Tai Chi master to come out of the village, dude. Like I know there's one. I know that there has been Tai Chi people that've gotten like stomped, but I still am waiting for the Tai Chi hero, dude. I know in my heart that Tai Chi is the best.
I think another
That's just
big
my opinion.
I think another thing is like usually the top style or the best technique, like when it comes to UFC, it's usually a guy, a single person. And let's say he wins like the world championship or whatever. Eventually, he's gonna get older. He's gonna slip up. He just because he's human. He's gonna or her. It doesn't matter. But that person, that human, is going to slip up, and they're gonna get fucked up. And whoever fucked them up, whether it was a fluke or not, their shit is going to be the best. And then it's just gonna keep like rotating like that, you know, as long as like humans keep trying to like refine this shit. But I like it, you know,
And then
I
they
appreciate
build
it.
off of each other, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They
You see it
they
most-
like they synthesize. That's really what it's about, synthesis. Like synthesizing like techniques and needs and like what the time.
Oh, that reminds me of Duncan Idaho, right? Like he's like the supreme badass of his time, and so they keep on bringing him back because like nobody can top him. But then,
that's
spoilers.
Cool.
Yeah, spoilers. Like a million years in the future or whatever, 4,000 years in the future, like he gets totally shocked because this guy that looks kind of frail compared to him, that is just kind of like, and he seems like he's totally a weakling and just does whatever the God Emperor wants. And then it turns out that he's like twice as fast as him, and it's no big deal because he's been bred that way for like 4,000 years. So that's an intense book. People said, I was looking at reviews when I was trying to get into Dune, and people said that that was the worst book of them all, but it was like the most philosophical.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's going to be my favorite if it's the most philosophical. Like, and it was my favorite. So maybe I'm just boring. But if you haven't read those, all of them, like they're great.
Well, I appreciate stimulating the mind because I think the universe is ultimately made of mind. So, you know, you're just
I agree.
You're just rolling with the flow, man. You're not rolling against it. You're rolling with it.
I am literally doing that.
And what's even crazier about the human mind in particular is that there's so many like little blocks that have been engineered into our DNA to keep us from expressing our full potential.
Wait, say that again?
How it seems like there's these like firewalls engineered into our DNA to keep us from expressing our full potential. Some of it to protect us.
Dude.
Like, you know, it's
Oh
like,
my
we
God.
Like
use all
cancer,
of
for
this
example.
thing
We
for-
have to have cancer eventually,
I'm so
right?
sorry,
That's how we
but
die.
thank you for saying that, because this is something I haven't been able to articulate because I always forget that it happens. But has anybody had this experience where I swear, dude, it's like there is a firewall that's built into my brain because I keep on coming across a thought. And I swear it's like the same train of thought every time. And as soon as I come across it, it gets wiped out. And I can't remember what I was thinking for the last 30 seconds. It's just gone. It's just gone every time. It's like I'm remembering something, or like something. It's like I'm having an epiphany and it keeps getting canceled out. And it's been happening for like the last 2 years, but it's happening more and more often lately.
Maybe it's a repressed memory. You should try hypnosis, like a hypnotherapist. I've never done one myself, but that seems like that's up their alley, you know? I mean, I would love to get into
Yeah.
hypnotherapy. Maybe I'll try a session myself.
It feels like it could be a repressed memory, but I feel like it's something beyond that. Like it's like a thought that I'm not allowed to have yet. Like it's like too soon for the universe or something. It's like the distinct impression I get, or it's some sort of creepy like possibilities. It's some sort of creepy like how they say they can hack your dreams and stuff like that already. Like humans are a hackable animal. Like they're already doing that, and like
You want to hear?
like I'm about to break through to a new thought, and I'm just not allowed.
You ever have like a schizophrenic break? I've had one before. Just full disclosure, like there was a time like one Halloween, I think it was 2014 or something, 2015, but I was in Manhattan and I took 2 tabs of some really strong shit. And eventually like everyone, because we all took that much, and everyone just dispersed. Everyone separated in Manhattan because, you know, we were all so messed up. And eventually it was just me and my friend, and eventually I started ranting, and I started ranting about how like we're living in a fucking simulation, and I figured it out. And because I cracked the code, now like eventually they're gonna come and dissolve me. They're gonna come and like fucking pick me up, and they're gonna take me away, and they're gonna kill me. So like, and apparently I ended up at the World Trade Center, and I ended up threatening cops. And like when one of them reached for his gun, like I got on my knees and I was like crying out, like, please don't kill me. And then I told them I was on acid, and they were like, you took LSD? And I was like, yep. And I figured it out. We're living in a simulation, and now or never the forces, the reptilians or the insectoids or whatever are gonna come and kill me. So they zip tied my, and I was really calm after that. Like they zip tied my hands and feet. I didn't fuss, and they put me in an SUV in the back seat.
I really respect you for bringing this up, that you're like willing to talk about it publicly.
Finish the story.
I really do.
All right. So I was in the trunk of the car, and the light was on in the back seat, so I was like, it was like bugging me out. But I was zip tied, and I was really, really calm, because in my mind I was ready to die at that point. I was so fucked up on acid. I was like in this new reality where it's like they're gonna liquefy me now, and I was so ready to go because I was like, I get it, you know, of course they would get rid of me, knowing this is all fake bullshit. And then like one of them comes to the window, and they knock on the window, and I'm like, before you kill me, can I talk to the president, and I want to see my girlfriend one last time. And then they just like laughed at me, and then they walked away, and I was still really calm. And then the paramedics came, and I swear, like the one that stayed with me in the back while we were driving to the hospital, I swear his eyes were like blood red and evil, and his partner was like really had this like angelic white light vibe kind of thing. It was really bizarre, but like but then like I ended up in a room, and by the time I got to the hospital, like I started like coming down from the peak, and then like I started realizing like fully like I started sobering up. I mean, I was still calm. I was never like freaking out throughout this whole process. I think that's why like I made it out of this. So like they put me in a room with a bed and everything, and eventually like people come in, and as soon as they left the room, as soon as like I was left alone for 1 second, I just left. I bounced out of there, and like I left before I put down any information or wrote anything down. So I think I was pretty lucky in that regard. Otherwise, I probably would. Yeah. So that's my acid story and it was crazy because before I went into my freak out over like that public freak out, I had like these visions of like this future of like it looked like vaguely Egyptian archaeology, but sorry, not architecture. Egyptian architecture, but like very futuristic looking. And I just saw this in my head, and it like gassed me up. Like it made me feel like so empowered, like so like maniacal almost. Like I felt manic, just like picturing this shit that was just flooding in my head. And that's when I started saying, it's like, yeah, this is all bullshit. We're living in a simulation. Now they're gonna come fucking liquefy me for knowing this, blah blah blah. And it was crazy,
know,
you know. Like that's
Dude,
probably
hold on.
Which-
Imagine there's like a universe where you didn't leave when you thought that you should have, and
Right.
then they did fucking get you.
and I got lobotomized or something. Like, yeah.
You know,
That
this
would've been
sounds
nuts.
like a
Like you took it too far and they pushed the button. Yeah.
This is like the movie They Live. You know, it's that moment of putting on
Yeah,
the glasses,
that's like real
and
life.
seeing the illusion for what it is, and you basically, you know, seeing the code of the Matrix, and you're able to. It's I call it the wizard vision,
Oh no.
and it's being able to see.
in
It's
in
what-
hindsight,
boy.
It's the capacity to see, I guess, the mythological overlay over reality, that the symbolism of all things that is constantly all around us, and just the meaning behind all of it, including the meta meaning that it's all an illusion. So yeah, I don't know if I don't like I don't like calling it a schizophrenic episode. I mean, I think it's like, maybe, but it's like, that's just a language, that's just a word again that we're like trying to
Dude, that's such a
describe
cool way to
something.
conceptualize it. I love that.
it was
You know,
fucked up. It was fucked up at the time because I was like freaking out. I was like, oh my god, I
I
discovered
think it's
this and now
I
they're
think
gonna
it's
kill me.
close. I think it's better to call it a mystical experience than it is to call it a schizophrenic episode, because that's a framework that is trying to restrict it into something that, you know, basically secularizes it and renders it neutered, while the real
Right,
experience
'cause
of
it
what you had
totally-
was potent and real, and you could actually, you might not have understood all the information you were processing, but you were processing infinite information. So yeah, of course you're going to get some of it wrong,
I
but
couldn't agree more.
you're getting
Haven't
too
developed
much,
a-
you're
yeah.
over simulated.
There
But-
isn't a spiritual counterpart to the DSM, so
See, the cops knew. They're like, they were the reptiles going, he can see. It's
I
not
don't
like
know,
in They Live where they're worried about it. They're like, sometimes people will take acid and they'll be able to see, you know?
I mean,
Wait, hey, you know
yeah,
that guy
Well, just
in
think
the
that they're-
ambulance,
they're-
though? That guy in the ambulance, though.
There might have
Yeah,
been.
yeah, that guy was scary. That guy,
I got
that
like
guy
that. I
fucked
got
me
that.
up.
You know, it's kind of like that scene in Constantine where Constantine. He's
I was like, yo, it was
he
bizarre.
can see, Constantine can see demonic spirits and he can see angelic spirits, and he's on the bus, and then you have like an old man who turns around and his face starts getting all demonic. And
That was
it's like,
weird.
Right.
That's kind of what you experience. You, at that moment, you literally had both, you know, the demonic and the angelic right there in the ambulance with you, and I guess that's where they always are, like right
It was
on
crazy.
the line.
It was
I
like
had
it
a
was the
similar
pretty
break.
fucked up acid
Stand
trip
out.
that I've ever had.
Ooh, has anyone watched
dude,
the show?
no, that's why I got sober. Which show?
Has anyone watched?
Yeah, they
the
say
show
things get weird when you do it alone.
I was with
No.
a bunch of people. I just had the wrong cocktail of stuff. I don't know, threw a couple tabs of acid in a beer that I was drinking, and I was messing around with some harder stuff. I rolled a ball of hash oil in some speed, as they call it in the streets, and I was just nursing that in a pen all night, like, and at the end of the night, like, after thinking that, like, you know, I was being set up, and because I was beefing with this guy, and I was with some people who knew him, and yeah, whether or not I was getting set up or not, like, they gave me a break and essentially let me sleep it off. But the next morning I decided, okay, I'm going to get sober and I'm going to run the fuck away. And I like sold almost all the shit that I had except for the clothes I was wearing and my skateboard. I almost got a fucking haircut. I like bought a disguise so that I couldn't be followed, because I kept on noticing like there were these basically men in black, like guys in, you know, black suit, white shirt, black tie, who would just like pop up and disappear all the fucking time. And I was in the middle of Hollywood, so it really could have been anybody. Because like Hollywood Boulevard is just full of a bunch of crazy people. Why wouldn't there be like, you know, chauffeurs or whatever? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, it would be the
They're there to get all
nuttiest
the
place on the
schizophrenics.
planet.
Yeah,
Damn.
yeah. I ended up in rehab after that because I wanted to say goodbye to my kid before I disappeared forever, and she was
Jesus.
not at my parents' house. And
Well,
yeah.
you know, I think
Oh,
it's
that's
a bad
beautiful.
idea. the mixing part is probably the bad idea. You know, like
Yeah.
I've
Well-
had psychedelic experiences in the past, and obviously I didn't mix them with speed and even alcohol. I always made a point to try to only take the pure form of what I was taking.
Yeah.
And it generally it's kept me good, and you know,
I think the
try
acid
not
is
to
what
use-
saved me, to be perfectly
probably
honest. That was the only thing that was like gave me any clarity in all of the other muddiness.
You know what's
Like,
crazy too?
You took
Oh, I'm
a
sorry.
sacred medicine.
I'm sorry about like that's crazy, but also it's like just so you know, like you could take like no drugs, and there's people that get into like spirituality or like even conspiracy theories, which oddly overlap in some weird and funny ways, but they could get into this and it could completely ruin your life just the same as if you were like a drug addict or as if you were an alcoholic or something. Like people who really do get lost in the sauce when it comes to like theories, when it comes to your spiritual identity, when it comes to your sense of self, and it becomes so depersonalized where you stop caring about your material existence and all you care about is like this like whole spiritual identity where suddenly it's like your energy is focused on escape, and that's not good. You know, that's no bueno. You have to definitely, I mean, as gross and physical and dense as it is, this is us, you know, we got to like deal with that no matter how cool the metaphysical shit is.
You know, an aspect of psychosis is when you don't have any more groundwork, like your framework has been destroyed and you have nothing to replace it by. You have a psychosis, and at that moment, your brain's grasping for any meaning it can to rebuild a new infrastructure, and so it'll latch on to the most crazy, absurd concepts. Like people who start getting into conspiracy theory, they start off and then they have a moment of clarity. They call it the awakening, where they go, oh my God, reality is not how I thought it was. Like things are not how I was told, and everything I believed can be questioned. And at that moment, they're at risk of latching on to any conspiracy theory that they deem to be, well, that they encounter really, and then they'll just take it on and be like, this is reality. The earth is flat, they're lying to us. Or the earth is hollow, they're lying to us.
Okay,
or
so
be.
that's all like cope for ontological shock. It's when your bedrock of reality just collapses and you're like, oh shit, I cannot trust everything that I thought was real, everything like that I've been working towards, everything that I live, like that, you know, the reason my raison d'etre is suddenly like just rendered meaningless. And that's something, and I said this before, and like Jack messed with me before about it. He was like, I was like, this is what postmodernism was supposed to prepare us for. And then Jack was like, what's your analysis of like postmodernism? I was like, I can't really like rightfully do that. And he was like, exactly. That was funny. Right, Jack? You remember?
Yeah, I remember that. I'm kind of fading out of reality with the connection right now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Goddamn. Goddamn.
God bless.
So what are you guys up to currently? Besides, I know Jack is driving his big old rig, his tiggle bitties rig.
Yeah, I'm on my way. I just left Palestine. I literally just left Palestine, and I'm going to the border in Arizona.
Wait, the town, is it a town or a county or whatever called Palestine?
It's the Palestine. No, it's Palestine, Texas. This is where I left from.
Palestine, Texas. There's a place in Texas called Palestine.
Yep.
Yeah, that's where I was.
Goddamn. Weren't you also in the West Coast earlier?
I was over in Arizona earlier this week, and then I went all the way to Georgia, and then I went back to Texas. Now I'm going back to Arizona again.
I see.
Yeah, I went from the border in McAllen, Texas, is where I started off like this kind of journey. I was on the border of Mexico, and then I went over to then I went to Arizona from Palestine. And this is actually rare. I usually don't do the same, like I go all over the country, but they requested that I do the Palestine again. So I guess it's because I'm such a holy man that they wanted me back. But yeah, so I went to Palestine and then to Arizona. Then I went all the way to Atlanta, Georgia, and then I went back to Palestine. Now I'm going back to Arizona. That's my life story.
That's a haul.
I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. I
I
love
just
that
posted
song.
that song up, and I felt so proud of myself because I've wanted to travel my whole life, and I have
Hell yeah.
traveled to like every state in the union in the last 4 months. It's been really an amazing journey. I feel so lucky that I've been able to do this because I dreamed about traveling forever, and I just never could. And I even tried to get together. Like I even went on ill-conceived trips that I shouldn't have gone on, and I could have gotten arrested. I could have gotten in a lot of trouble because I just wanted to travel so bad. And there's always like a barrier just keeping me in Utah where I grew up. Like I felt like I literally wasn't allowed to leave, guys. And now I could just go everywhere in the whole country. And I even got to see New York City, which I've like had a
Yeah,
boner for
holla.
going and seeing. I found myself suddenly driving through New York City on the freeway, and next thing I knew, I didn't even really realize I was in New York City. And I was like, this is kind of a big city. Like, what's going on? Like, I know I'm pretty close to New York City, but this
It's
seems like
Disney
a big
World,
city.
man.
All right,
And then
I'm gonna
all of
head
a
out. Sorry to
sudden,
cut
I
this
look
off, but
up.
I gotta get going.
All right, good night,
Okay,
man.
Have a good
Good
one.
night.
love you.
Take care. Love you
Good
too.
night.
Mwah.
Be safe.
So I
Yeah,
look
so
up, and all of a sudden, it's Central Park. And I smiled so big. You can't even imagine how big I smiled when I saw the sign for Central Park.
yo,
And
next
the
time you're
next thing I
around,
know,
you should hit me up, please.
I was so scared to stop. I wanted to get out and stop, but I didn't want to get stuck because everybody talks up New York
Yeah.
City like it's like scary to drive a truck there, you know, like you've got a big trailer. And so I
It's
wanted to
hard.
like get off on an exit. I wanted to get off on an exit so bad and just look around because the freeway that I was on, that I was coming through from the north to the south and then to George Washington Bridge, it was like sunk in. So I actually didn't really see any of the big buildings or anything. Like it was like sunk in, and all I could see is just like normal looking buildings, but there was just tons of them, and they looked kind of cooler than most places.
Next
But
time, next time I could
I
direct you
missed
to a
like the
place where you
big
can
parts
park
of the
a rig.
city.
Yeah, next
That
time
would be awesome.
I could show you exactly where. And this may sound
That'd be
cringe,
excellent.
but this may sound cringe to people. I don't know, but I consider myself a patriot. I'm a lover of America. I like this country. I was born here. I may not look like I was born here, but I was born here.
Right?
And what's even weirder is that like I'm like relatively, as far as like, you know, legal concern, like legally, I'm like 100% Korean. And because someone asked me that last night, and they were like, "You're just 100% of something." I'm like, "Yeah," because like most people these days are like usually a mix, and not everyone,
Right.
but a lot of people, or most people, I would say, and that feels kind of weird. I guess that's kind of how Japanese people feel too. I mean, I think first of all, I think like every first world country population is like steadily declining. Like the Japanese people, for example, like we mentioned it before, like going extinct, which is like, you know, rest in peace. Sucks. I'm sorry. I
Do
actually
you
feel
feel
really
like
bad for them.
do you feel like
Nationalism?
patriotism gets conflated with nationalism? Because like this has been bothering me, especially this month, is that I was talking to somebody on APM, and I realized that when they were saying nationalism, I was meaning patriotism, and that, like, and I don't think most people. I think they're talking past each other, and they're calling patriotism nationalism, and I don't think many people are actually nationalists. I don't even think Trump, when he says he's a nationalist, is really a nationalist in the way that people mean it. I think he means that he's a patriot.
Yeah, he likes his country.
You know, that's my personal opinion. Right.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me
mean,
wrong.
yeah.
I don't think my country's perfect. I'm sorry, what were you saying?
Who, me? Oh no,
Yeah.
I do love this country. I love this land, and I think that there's something special about this place, and a lot of that is potential because it's such a young country.
Right.
But you know, those old interests, those old families, all that old money, it finds a way to maintain power, you know, and
The red shielding fellers.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. It's a game they've been playing for hundreds of years, and they've got it down to a science now. They basically outsourced a lot of it to computers, basically. So I don't know. We'll see. It's funny because that's a lot of their power is computing power, but it's we have access to that as well, which which gives us power. And I think that's like the hope that a lot of people came to this country with. It's like, oh, you know, anybody has access to that. And in this modern world, you know, technology is the thing. Yep.
I think they really messed up giving us the internet. I think they think that they got us on lock with it, and like, ooh, we fooled them. Oh, we gave them the internet, got them. I think they screwed up, dude. I think it was the biggest mistake they ever made in all of time.
What, the elites?
Mhm.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Like
the internet is for us, dude. Like, it's universal law. Like, we got this.
It's kind of
it's
magic.
already game over as far as I'm concerned. I'm really
mystical.
optimistic. I'm really optimistic, and I already, like, there was a moment in time. It was about a year and 2 months ago, where I was sitting there and I was just sitting and I was pondering, and I had just got done watching something on YouTube, and I'm just in a quiet moment for a second, and I just thought to myself, the war just got won. It's already won. It's a matter of time now. The dominoes just need to fall. Like, I don't know what it was. It just felt very distinct. Like they already screwed up, dude. It's over.
Yeah, I said it before.
I can't really explain it.
It's almost like in the year 2024, the year of our Lord. It's almost like to walk a spiritual path. It doesn't even feel like a battle anymore. It's like you're just leaning on something that's already about to tip over. I mean, you're gonna see
real, man. You were totally saying something like that earlier, huh?
Yeah, you're gonna see people like that. Like, you're gonna see people who completely reject it. And what are they gonna do? They're gonna sink further into their material sensibility of lack, of like scarcity, of like, no, I got to do this because what if I don't have enough of this, and then my family won't be able to survive, and I'll die, and my kids will die, and I got to kill you.
Right,
I'd rather kill you before I let my kids die.
Job will provide.
The homesteading psyop.
Yeah.
Radical individualism.
Yeah, and like atomization and all that shit. And like, I don't know. I don't think that's gonna work. And I think, like, you're right. Like, the internet was kind of like this weird breakthrough. I mean, not all at once. It clearly happened gradually. But when it comes to the internet, and you're like, oh yeah, you know, like, we're gradually getting to this point.
Two things happened. The first one was nuclear weapons. And then the second thing was the internet. This is my theory, is that nuclear weapons is actually what ends war. It's a moment in time that not only are the aliens coming and shutting them off, and we can't even use them, but beyond that, like, it's such an existential threat to all of us as people that nobody wants to press the button because they want to gain from using these weapons, but they can't, and there's no way to gain. So all of the wars, this is my theory, all of the wars that are playing out, all of these proxy wars and everything that's going on still, like Vietnam up until now, through Iraq, everything like that, what's going on in Ukraine, what's going on in Jerusalem and Palestine, it's all pretend wars because nobody can really push the button. So they're just like kind of playing out what last they can with the toys they have. But it's going to come to a head to where everybody realizes, like, okay, it's time to stop. We got too close to pressing the button. And nuclear wars, as much as it's like it can kill us all and it's supposed to be scary, is I think it's the moment in history that war was ended, that peace was achieved on the planet for all of time. That's what I think.
Until they make an industry out of that, you know, with the whole Project Bluebeam conspiracy, and it's like, oh, they're disclosing the aliens, but there's this like, and then there's going to be war with the aliens, and we all have to come together as one world to defeat them somehow. And then, oh, who's going to be running this one world government that defeated the alien?
I often think how soon that we all could come together.
yeah. And it's like, is it really going to be the aliens, or is it just going to be like guys pretending to be aliens because it controlled opposition and all that stuff? So, sorry, that's a little bit
people
off
in suits.
Way off the
No. It's, Project Bluebeam was kind of I got laughed at for that, you know, because like, it's like, oh, not only are aliens real, but the government has been in contact with aliens to such a degree where they've reverse engineered the technology sufficiently in exclusion where they're able to stovetop the projects or like different aspects of the technology and like converge all of that to like being able to make these tic-tac like objects that could make. I mean, what if one day, like, you look across the Hudson River and you see just a swarm, like, neatly rowed in geometric, like, perfection, you know, like, just like a row of, like, floating tic tacs just there, floating ominously.
Beijing Olympics.
Yeah. And you're like,
I just
what
wanna-
is that?
I
And
wanna
everyone's
appreciate
freaking out. They're like,
how-
what is that?
I would
And then they
appreciate how psychotic that everything you just said would sound just 10 years ago compared to now.
Yeah,
Like-
I know.
Just the level of
I get it.
psychosis
I
that
get
would
it.
sound like, and
But-
now it doesn't though as much.
Yeah,
It's
I
so
know
much more plausible.
because I know that if you did like, you know, the cursory research where you watch the videos from the 80s, from the early 90s, even from like the 70s, you know, like if you watch those videos and you watch like whether or not it's a psyop, it still means like A, the government is lying to you, or B, the government is lying to you. You know, like it's that's irrefutable. So that alone is like really potent.
Well,
enough
either
for me to-
they're lying to us to screw with us, or they're lying to us because they're trying to like ease us in and protect us, or maybe there's both going on at the same time.
Well, no matter what, this goes back to the spiritual aspect, because what first of all, if they were malicious, what they really capitalize on is like benefiting from manipulating our metaphysical energy, our attention, whatever it is. And if our minds develop to the point of being able to process things like theoretical quantum physics and all that shit, even as little kids watching like Marvel movies, like if the general populace is able to process that shit, then yeah, you're going to need like higher stakes to be able to enforce a sense of scarcity, which is why Project Bluebeam does kind of make sense when you realize people are getting smarter, and if they're getting smarter, you're going to need smarter deceptions. And if it takes reverse engineered secret alien tech that's turned into like false flag alien invasions, then fucking so be it. They'll do it. You know, like why the fuck wouldn't they? What do you think Lockheed Martin has been working so hard on? What do you think Boeing and Raytheon, like what do you think these fucking like major players of the military industrial complex who has access to this alien technology, if it was recovered, they would be the players who are working on this shit. And we all know it because we don't even have to like dig that deep. It's on YouTube and shit. Like enough of it is,
Skunkworks has a Wikipedia.
yeah, exactly. Like it's all like it's all conveniently commodified in a media sense, you know. It's so
this is why sometimes I think that they're easing us into it. Like we're like, because of the paradigm shift of like coming out of like we're still kind of recovering from thinking that the Earth is the center of the universe. If you think about it, it wasn't that long ago that we came out of that delusion, that illusion, delusion, or whatever. And so like it's like a mind warp, it's a mind fuck to realize like not only
ontological
is the
shock,
universe
yeah.
like the universe is like so vast that it may as well be infinite. Whether it's infinite or not, it may as well be. We know that now. And then time is so long that rocks became people because it just was so long. You know what I'm saying? Like we have that vision that we can see already, and then you tell us that like that entire star ocean that's vast forever with infinite possibilities also could be crawling with all sorts. It's a little much. You know what I'm saying? It's a little much.
I mean, as vast as the universe is, and as infinite as all the big stuff is, that same vastness, that same infinite nature also exists in our very local realm. So, as soon as they find a way to profit off of it, they will.
All right, I just want to. By the way, I want to make a request for the next Wednesday show. I would like to talk about esoteric Hollywood. I mean, I'm not going to say like Hollywood is run by Satanists. And I'm not going to claim Hollywood is run by angels.
I'm not going to say they're not.
But I think there's something going on there, and I want to talk about like at least the fact that a bunch of these actors, like AAA actors, they definitely believe in this shit. They definitely also are schooled on metaphysics. They're definitely schooled on spiritual shit.
Scientology is big too. We don't even realize how big Scientology is. There's this dude that broke down like how many connections of Scientology there really is in Hollywood, and it's like totally, there's a lot of. Anyways, go on.
No, I was gonna say, you're right.
Bullshit, anyways. So, I mean, yeah, but the predictive programming thing is very entertaining, especially when you consider like all the stuff Disney is doing, and the new Deadpool. Sort of like the crux of the storyline in that is, since the cinematic universe is now a Marvel cinematic multiverse, with the acquisition of Fox and all of that IP. Deadpool is I'm really looking forward to that movie because it's gonna hit on so many different things as far as
Tell
like
us
the
a little
bow.
bit about it, because I haven't seen it at all. I haven't been following it. Like, what's going on with it?
Okay, well, at the end of Deadpool 2, Cable, who's like a time traveling X-Man, he came back to kill the guy who killed his family. And Deadpool tries to save that kid to prove that it's possible. It is possible, and he saves the kid and Cable's family. And then he steals Cable's time traveling device to basically decringe all of Deadpool's like past deeds or whatever, even like the shitty Deadpool appearance in the Wolverine movies.
So he can just like look a little bit more badass in his like legacy, or what?
Basically, he just like yuck, that's a bad memory, kills it literally. And then the time
Just to inflate his ego or something, right? Like to have
exactly.
the perfect timeline for himself is what it's.
Yeah, because Deadpool is the ultimate narcissist.
Yo,
And,
that role,
that's great.
That role is Ryan Reynolds' like magnum opus as an actor. That is that is his ultimate.
He was born. He was born for it. Yeah.
Just like Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man. Like, I think Ryan Reynolds is his magnum opus is the Deadpool role, and he loves it. And this is why I think it's perfectly. This is an example of like the magic that happens when like your mind, body, and soul are aligned. Like, no matter what it is you do, no matter who you are, if you're living a life where mind, body, and soul are aligned, you're gonna do incredible shit, and it's going to influence people in like incredible ways. Which, it's cool. I think we should all strive.
I don't think Hollywood is totally without merit or like without hope. I think that there's still a creative force that exists. It's just been like it's been turned into an algorithm lately. But I mean, come on, there's still people that know how to create, and I think it's just going to take one movie to push it over the top. I keep on waiting for it, where there'll be like a movie that's kind of like double A, or like double A funding, right? That it'll come along one day and just like prove that, oh wait, people actually have been hungry for real art, like for real cinema, for real entertainment, and like that is profitable, but it just hasn't happened yet, and it's going to someday. I can't wait.
I think the issue with any entity made up of a bunch of people, whether it be Hollywood or Congress, is that it has gotten sucked into the mutual blackmail sort of economy, where they prey on people's people make mistakes,
but that's such a bummer though.
I like this comment. Latter Day Chad says Hollywood is run by Satanists, but real Satanists believe in interdimensional demons. Alex Jones type demons are the real ones.
Interesting.
Right. So what does he mean by that? Like Alex Jones?
We just mean not your Alison Kellogg Satanists.
Well, it's funny because like when I explain like demons to people, like like who whatever it may be, they're hardline materialists. I'm always like this. Well, consider the fact that like whether or not you think demons are materially real, let's say a person believes in demons strong enough to the point where it affects their behavior, and suddenly they sincerely believe it enough to the extent where they're doing demonic shit. That kind of has like a real implication at that point, because
that's exactly why I try not to think about it.
It's a frequency thing, because like if demons exist, they're clearly not a physical or like whatever non-corporeal entity that just exists that we could observe. It's a frequency thing. It's a thing that exists on a higher dimension, which is interdimensional in that sense because it affects our dimension, and it's a pattern that could like adversely affect you if your psyche is in like a very vulnerable pattern or a very vulnerable state. Like let's say you're in a state you have like you identify very hard with the act of worship. Let's say you're really into worshiping like higher deities or higher icons or whatever, then you're going to see certain circumstances and you're going to like be more likely to apply like a higher meaning to it when it could just be like your own shitty decision making. But then suddenly before you know it, you get like a demonic possession, you know, essentially, like you get a generational curse. You get like this curse where you can't stop complaining about shit. And the fact that you can't stop
Yeah.
complaining about shit just ruins your life. And suddenly no one wants to be around you. And like, you know, in the
Right.
olden days, they would say that person is fucking cursed. But in, you know, in the modern world, we say, no, that person's just a drag to be around. They're a wet blanket, you know, but this is like this kind of like that same
Right.
concept.
They're fixating or whatever on like their negatory.
Yeah. So that to me is like one of the more realistic examples of like, I don't know, that could kind of show why demons would have a precedent for existing, you know, in a
So
certain sense.
this is why I'm a big believer in not knocking on doors that you're not ready to open. Like
Yeah, I
like
agree.
people always say like and I don't know about you guys, but the first time I heard somebody say with a dead serious voice that like could cut ice,
Yeah, I'll be right back.
that to stay away from Ouija boards, I was just like, okay, that's good enough for me. I'm gonna just stay away from those. You know, good enough for me. They sounded pretty serious, so probably just gonna stay away. You know, I'm a big believer in that. Just don't open yourself up for something that you don't really want. You know what I mean?
We're nearly at the 2-hour mark. Anybody got any hot takes? This is a good
Pancakes.
curveball moment, right? Kurt, you got a hot take?
Sonic 3 is the most superior Sonic game of the Sega Genesis era.
With Knuckles?
Yeah, we'll throw in with Knuckles. They're a tandem game, so you have to count Knuckles in there, I think, as well.
So all of it put together, like Sonic 3 and Knuckles put together
Sonic
into a
3
super
wouldn't-
game.
Sonic 3, that's not a hot take. That's an accurate take. The only problem with that, like, here's a hot take. Sonic 3 sucks because they don't accredit Michael Jackson, who actually did the soundtrack, and did their best to like change it and erase Michael Jackson from Sonic 3. That's what sucks about Sonic 3. It's the only thing.
Why would they do that?
Because Michael Jackson was going through all of this hysterical, like, child.
Oh, that's why they do that. Yeah.
And he had created this he not only did he create the soundtrack, Michael Jackson's a computer genius. So he was building all these sample libraries, and all the samples are still in Sonic 3. And it's one of the greatest achievements in music ever because it's an interactive musical composition, right? There's nothing more interesting. Michael Jackson's a genius. And then they just wrote his name off of it.
Is it one of those that builds as you play? Is it interactive music?
Yeah. I mean, think about it. All the assets and sprites have their own percussionary, capacity. It's brilliant. Everything about it. Your character makes music.
Wow.
And like, changes and speed changes as you're going faster.
Yeah, they did that for what was it? They did that for the first System Shock game, where and nobody noticed that the music was like it would build depending on what you were doing. So when they came back for System Shock 2, he just wasn't going to do it again because nobody noticed, and he put in like the most effort in his life into doing that.
Yes, that's right. Piano Gigger, I am still alive. Thank you. The tornado watch is over. We're safe. Andrew Vega, what about you? Any hot takes?
Not any that wouldn't get me canceled, I guess, especially when Chris was talking about the complaining frequency and generational curses.
Yeah.
It sort of brought up some topical conflicts that are going on right now.
Edgy.
But you know what? Hey, I mean, shoot, it's if you are outcast by society to undertake certain jobs that are sort of classified as I'm just gonna shut the fuck up, actually.
I love this team. Chris, terrorist.
Yo, what's up?
What about you? You got
me?
any hot takes?
Well, I don't have any hot takes, but what I would say is, I mean, I always just like try to repeat this message or frequency. I just say like, I'm not really concerning myself with like making people do good over bad. I'm just like, align yourself in mind, body, and soul. Just focus on that. Don't worry about doing the right thing or the wrong thing or the thing that's good for you or good for others. Just align yourself in mind, body, and soul, and magical things will fucking start happening. It's weird. I didn't even believe in this shit at first, but like once it happened, just fell into place accidentally. I was like, wow, this is like pretty fucking powerful. And I'm not gonna say like it's something you have to do, but just try it. You know, like I think it's a thing that no matter what faith or like what religion or belief or whatever you ascribe to or political like inclination you have, like I think alignment is very important. Like when you're self-aligned, it doesn't really matter what you're fighting for at that point, because you're at least you're not your own enemy. Just don't be your own fucking worst enemy, and that's it. You know, just do what
I
you
got
can
one.
to be on your own side. What do you
Amen
got?
to that. That's the truth.
What do you got?
Yeah. Oh, I'm here. Okay, I've got one, and it totally goes into what you were saying. It's just everybody watching, everybody that sees this in the future. Please, please, for the love of Christ, just tell everybody around you what you really think. Just get it out there. Get it out there. It's gonna be okay.
Be yourself, man.
There's what we need.